This podcast is produced by Business Aviation Collective and sponsored by LD Aviation. Good afternoon. This is Lindsay, and I am with LD Aviation and Business Aviation Collective. Today on the podcast, we get to talk to Brian Walker. He is the Director of Operational Services at JetLinx. Hi, Brian.
Lindsay, how are you? Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate that.
Likewise, we're so happy to talk to you today. So, Brian, I think our first question would be, what are you doing right now? What is your role with JetLinx? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's everyone jokes at work. My title today is Director of Operational Services. Before that, it was recruiting and talent sourcing, and I've played a lot of roles. So this week is Director of Operational Services, and I'm responsible for our flight coordination department and our international department. And we're kind of the dispatchers of of JetLinx. We're telling the crews where to fly. We are checking NOTAMs, checking weather. We are the defenders. I like to call us the defenders of the schedule. So we try to maintain the schedule integrity by ensuring we're checking those NOTAMs and the weather and any kind of risks that are out there. We're working to mitigate and create that seamless service for our members, for our owners, and for our charter customers as well.
That's awesome because, of course, fixing a problem prior to when it becomes a hair on fire is better.
That's right.
Great.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you work with a whole team. How many people do you have on your team?
Sure. So we have 14 people on our flight coordination team, and then our international team is at 5 at this point. So we have our international manager, and then our 4 people who are actually doing the GenDex and the landing rights and that. And then for our flight coordination team, we have a flight coordination manager. And then from there, we actually split that up into 2 separate teams. One is flight control, which deals with our day of operation. And then we have a flight planning team, which deals with all of our future domestic missions.
Okay, excellent. So I kind of heard in there, so you've got an international team. You're doing international operations in-house. So you're not using a service provider in most cases.
In most cases, correct. With those big ones, we just did a trip out to China. We used ITPS. They helped us out in a huge way for that. Great. So oh, absolutely. But we have a lot of amazing expertise that came from Meridian a few years back. We acquired them, and we were able to luckily enough, we were able to bring on some amazing people from there who knew about flying in Europe, knew about flying in Africa, Asia. And we were just open arms, like, come on in, folks. We would love to have you. And they have done a spectacular job on top of the other 2 folks who were already at JetLinx, and were just incredible to begin with. So this just added on to that amazing team.
That's so cool. I love international, actually. And I think it's really great. The more scheduling dispatchers that can learn how to do international, it just helps the career. I find it incredibly interesting. It's not just the same domestic flying that we might have been doing over and over again. So
absolutely.
That's great. So, okay, now, how did you even get attached to aviation? Like, is it something that's been a lifelong dream for you?
It's I wouldn't consider it lifelong. I remember when I was a little kid, my family's from New Jersey, and we moved to Kentucky before I was born. So our grandparents would fly in, and I remember going to the airport and watching them come in. So that's when I started liking airplanes. I just thought they were just cool. But then when I was a sophomore in high school, it was the summer between my sophomore and my junior year. My mom looked at me because I was sitting on the couch loafing around as teenagers would do at the time. And the town I grew up in Kentucky, it was one of those where you either escaped or you got sucked into it. And my mom saw that. And she said, you need to get a job, and you need to do something that's going to help you move out of here. So we had a small little airport close by. So I said, hey, I'll just take a journey over there and see what they're up to. And I walked into the FBO, knew nothing about aviation other than, I would be the one who looks up if a jet flew over. And there was this old, just crotchety, angry man in there, and his name was Merv Snow. I'll never forget him. He was a retired Continental Airlines captain who happened to just completing the last part of his life, just running the FBO. And he hired me on, and that's where I started fueling up maybe one plane every 2 weeks because it was just that remote.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of grass mowing. I ran on the runway to stay in shape. So I did a whole lot of that. And then I'd leaf through Controller magazine every day and learn that way. So that's how I got in. And then I realized I wanted to be an airline pilot, just like old Merv. So I think it was a senior. We had a class trip to Washington, D.C. So I flew on a 737-200. It was U.S. Air. And I was like, I'm going to be a U.S. Air captain on a 737-200.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no doubt about it. Without knowing anything else about the airline industry, that's exactly what I want to do. So there's a college in Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky University, amazing aviation program, even back in 1996. And that's where I got on with Eastern Kentucky University as a freshman, and then quickly realized that it is expensive to fly. And we did not. My parents weren't big fans on student loans, so I was working and trying to pay for everything at the same time, and I just couldn't afford it. I got 40 hours in, and I realized that I wasn't going to be able to continue to fly, but I always loved breaking out the sectionals, plotting the course, checking off my checkpoints, and figuring out the wind direction. I always loved that part. So kept that in the back of my head, and then we had Bluegrass Airport just up the road on I-75, so was able to go over there and got a job with Air Wisconsin, throwing bags on planes, checking people in, and then worked for just a number of airlines as I went through college. So that at least helped pay for college, which was great. I realized, this airline business and the operation side is kind of fun. And then I think I was working for ExpressJet towards the last part of my, and I think it was just after college. And then I started talking to some of the dispatchers on the phone. I was like, man, what do you do? And like, oh, we tell pilots what to do. It's amazing. We tell them, where they're going, how high they're flying, how much gas they're taking, all this stuff. And I'm like, how do I do that? I want to do that right now. So they talked to a couple of those folks, and like, you got to get your dispatch license. And then luckily enough, a lot of lucky things happened. We had a school, in fact, I think they're Flamingo Air now up in Cincinnati, but they were called airline ground schools back in the day, back in the early 2000s. And got my dispatch license and got on with Comair as a dispatcher, and just had a blast. Loved it. Loved every second of it. And we had a little bit of a bankruptcy with Delta at the time. This was like 2005. It's either 2005 or 2006. So I then became a ramp manager there at CVG. So commuting back and forth from Lexington to CVG the whole time, and was able to do that. And then yeah, and then got onto the Part 135 side, the company called TMC Jets in 2006. Sorry, that's a long story. It's just
great.
One thing
I have more questions along after you're done. I have all sorts of questions.
Yeah. So with TMC, we used to work with JetLinks all the time. We would do trips for them. They would do trips for us. And then one day JetLinks called, and it was a complete utter, like, I can't believe JetLinks just called. We've got to make this move. We've got to go to Omaha and make this happen. And that happened in 2019. So
4 years. You've been there about 4 years.
That's right. Yep. Absolutely.
Nice. Okay. I have a question. What was getting your dispatch license like with airline? You said it was airline ground schools or Flamingo Air.
Yeah, it was, they made it extremely easy to do because there was a lot of remote learning to start. We met on the weekends up in Cincinnati. It was right by CVG at the time, so Northern Kentucky. And we would have it was either 1 or 2 days of classroom training. And we did that for, I think it was 6 weeks. And then we took the oral exam, then the practical, and that was that. And it was funny because the instructor was a Comair SOC duty manager. So this was perfect for him because it was like, I just created this pipeline into Comair. We're never going to be short-staffed ever again. We have people just ready to come in. And so it was, they made it extremely easy to get. And it's just up the road from where I was living, and it worked out perfectly.
That's great, because I think a lot of people get a little bit nervous and overwhelmed, like they're afraid it's going to be really hard and they're not going to be able to pass. I mean, it is a hard test, but that's good to know that the teachers, the instructors are making it easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's their job. Their job is there to support you and getting you prepped for taking the ATP, getting you prepped for, working through the weight and balance problems that you'll see, and They were amazing at that. And I've yet to run into an instructor, a dispatch instructor who wants to make it tough. Everybody I've ever met is always like, hey, we're here to help you elevate up and get this done. With that being their sole mission, they make it seem a lot easier than it looks on the outside looking in.
Well, very good to know. Maybe that'll inspire a couple people to go out and get their dispatch license.
That would be huge.
It can only help. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
So then you dispatch for Comair, for airline, which is, of course, quite a bit different than Part 135.
Yep.
Quick question. Did you ever get to do any cool trips, non-rev trips? Fast riding trip?
It was amazing because we had jump seat privileges. So I would jump seat up to Cincinnati and back to Lexington. And that was the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life. On top of that, we had to do 5 hours of jump seating per year. I happened to get that done pretty quickly. Thank goodness before that bankruptcy hit. But I flew down to, it was Miami. So we flew Lexington to either Miami or Fort Lauderdale, flew down with them and then flew back to Cincinnati. And the crew on board was just showing me hey, when you guys are doing your releases, you've got your fuel burn. This is how we're calculating it here. And it put the why into what I was doing. And this is why it's important. You all are checking NOTAMs and we're partners, in this. And this is why we call and ask for maybe a little bit more extra fuel, or this is why we want to add an alternate. It was fantastic. Other than that, I met my wife in college, and when I was working for the airlines there, we would just take off to Chicago or Boston or,
nice.
we would have fun little trips like that. So it was definitely a fun perk, especially in college, to say, hey, I got a buddy pass. Come on, let's go to Chicago for the day.
That is so cool. Oh, very cool. So now you went from airline over to Part 135 dispatch. Anything that is your favorite about 135 or 121? Maybe something you miss?
Yeah, on the 121 side, I definitely miss the jump seating, which we don't get to do as much. I mean, if we do fly, we can always come up and chat with the crew. But the 135 side is exciting on the operations side because I was able to take the 121 principles and bring them over to TMC. So it was, hey, where do I go to check the NOTAMs? They're like, we don't check NOTAMs. That's what our pilots do. Oh, okay. Well, what about the weather? Well, we don't do that. Our pilots do it. So I'm like, well, what if we started doing that to help them out? And then all of a sudden, I'm checking NOTAMs for airports I've never heard of before. I'm checking weather for very remote places. That's what was exciting about it. I didn't dispatch any trips into Aspen. So learning about Aspen operations, learning about mountainous airports and the performance of a Beechjet or a Hawker 800, learning those little intricacies that I knew all about the CRJs and the CRJ 700s, but never about Beechjets, never about Hawkers. And then all of a sudden saying, hey, I understand what, max takeoff weight is. I understand what V speeds are. What if we started to do that and help the crew out, but not only help the crew out, but be able to look at trips months in advance and say, hey, Can we fly from Milwaukee to Teterboro with 5 passengers on a Beechjet? Okay, great. Now, can we do it on a wet runway? Can we do it with slush? And now all of a sudden we are starting to, taking those principles, we're starting to look at trips way ahead in the future. And then when a crew gets their trip sheet from a trip we did, we worked a month ago, it's already put together. It's been vetted numerous times, and we've got all the contingencies planned out. We've got plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. And now the customer is seeing that hey, look, wet runway in Milwaukee, you've got a trip in a month. If it's going to rain that day, let's use Midway. Let's use Waukegan. And they're like, wow, okay, that'd be great. Thank you for looking at it. And then the crews are getting a completed trip sheet, which not only helps them out, but it improves that pilot retention because they can go to bed knowing that, hey, these guys got my back. I'm not gonna get a trip sheet tomorrow with Teterboro to San Francisco on a Beechjet without a fuel stop or two. So that makes them more at ease as well. So multiple benefits to that. And that's another reason why I think that the dispatch license is extremely valuable on the 135 side. And I try to promote that as much as possible. If you get your dispatch license, you come to 135, you're gold. I mean, you are going to be able to elevate so quickly in this industry and then bring those principles in. And again, pilot retention, mitigate risk, improve the service level. There's so many things that you can do with that.
I totally agree. And I love that 121 mentality brought into the 135 and Part 91 also. you may not technically have to have these rules and processes in place, but they're only making things better. And why wouldn't we make things better?
100%.
I find that sometimes, at least in 91, we get a lot of pushback. Well, why do I want to learn that? Just like you said, who cares? I'm not the pilot. The pilot should take care of that. But It's just, it's not like it's your job versus it's my job. This is a team. Let's get this whole trip taken care of correctly, on time as much as possible. And that's the way to do it. Everybody on the same team. Looking
100%. 100%. And the crew and the 91 crews love the fact that you've got their back. If they have a 16-hour duty day coming up, yes, it's legal. But now also, is it safe?
Yes.
What are we doing to mitigate that? Do we have, are there crew rooms set up while they're hanging out? Also, we partner up with Polaris and use their Vocus products, so we can run a fatigue score on a Part 91 trip, just like we do the 135s. And then when we go to the crew, we say, hey, look, you've got a 17-hour duty day coming up, or the trip that we did to China, like, we've got a long duty day for you. What are your thoughts? Because here's what we're seeing, and here's what we would like to do to help you out along the way. And they're like, wow, this is incredible. We were just going to muscle through it. Like, no, there's no need. There's no need. We've set parameters up to help you out and to check everything along the way.
That's great. Now, do you guys use the Vocus, like the flight risk part of it? Where, I love
100%, 100%. In fact, it changed and I could talk about it later, but it changed the entire way we did our operation. We went from taking hours and hours to go through like 80 legs a day and create those mitigation. What we're going to do for the risk and like the threat scores. And we narrowed that down from 8 hours down to 30 minutes. We can knock out 80 legs in 30 minutes. It's absolutely incredible. And it's all because of that flight risk program, the fatigue program that they have. And I've told that to them so many times, and I just can't stop. I'm not trying to promote anybody. It literally has made our lives so much easier.
I agree. We have a couple of clients on it as well, and it's a touch of a button. You click it, it goes out, picks up all that information, brings it back, and highlights the stuff that it thinks and you think are going to be a problem. I love it. I agree. Yeah, Steve and his crew are really awesome.
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, very cool. Well, so you do a lot of, or before, I guess, the job that you had right now, you were in talent acquisitions.
Yeah.
So what was that like? So you got a chance to talk and do a bunch of interviews, I imagine, and pick out great talent.
Yeah, I did sourcing. So I was out there trying to, first of all, I was scared to death because I'd never done this before. I've been operations, either throwing bags or in operations my entire life. So I got the opportunity to do this, and I was scared to death. But it was basically going out, trying to find qualified PICs, and then enticing them obviously to come to JetLink. So I got to talk a lot, which my family will tell you that I'm really good at talking, and got to tell them about these exact kind of benefits. Like, hey, you come to JetLinks, you've got a dedicated international team. You've got people who understand what NOTAMs are. You got people that understand what TAFs and METARs are. We're going to be running trips way ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about it. We can even follow your flight plan if you need us to. If you're busy, we'll order your crew meals, follow your flight plans, we'll have it all set to go. So that made it so much easier to talk about. And then you add on, the benefits of, the salaries that we were offering and schedules and that. And then I got comfortable with it really quickly. And it was being able to sell what we had created from 2019 on up. And that since I was a part of that, it was easy to talk about. It's like, I get to chat about what we did. This is great. This makes me happy. That's soulful right there. That's good stuff.
And now you get to actually do it.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, it was fun. It was a great opportunity to learn a different side of the house, because I didn't want to, I was always scared that I was a one-trick pony. That's all I know is operations. So it was great to learn that part of it.
That's great. That's great. So how about what if you were talking to maybe a young person or perhaps somebody who's not in aviation but wants to get there? Sure. What advice do you have for them? Are there any? Yeah. What advice do you have?
Yeah. So I always tell students, and and people that are much younger than me, that aviation provides opportunity. And number one, we always need leaders in this industry. We need people who want to come in and continue to elevate. But if you wanted to get into accounting, there's a job in aviation for that. If you want to get into culinary arts, there's a job in aviation for that. There you cannot name a job out there in the non-aviation sector that aviation can't provide. And being a pilot is fantastic, and that's promoted all the time. But there's so many different opportunities as well. Operations, again, the service side, the accounting, marketing, you name it. There's so many other opportunities other than just being a pilot. And we need pilots, so don't get me wrong. If you're up for being a pilot, we're all about that too.
Right.
But I also like to say, hey, let's stay in touch, because when you start to reach that 1,500 hour mark, I want to be the first one in your ear telling you about what opportunities we have available for you. But you know what? Also, if flying 135-91 isn't your thing, I've got contacts. So you and I, Lindsay, have people that we know, and we can put you in touch with them. So
definitely.
It's all about not being selfish and just wanting that person to grow as an individual. And that has been an amazing light bulb that's gone off in my head over the past 10 years is, hey man, you've gobbled all this stuff up. Now it's time to give back. And that to me is important about giving back is, hey, if you want to work for JetLinks, great. If not, that's okay too. Here's some people I know that can help you out and get you moving in the right direction.
That's awesome. In fact, I have to, I'll admit to everybody that I borrowed or acquired one of Brian's employees, and I know it was a really hard move for her, but we are so thankful. And Brian's always been a really good, big supporter of her. And anyway, I'm just super thankful for Linda. You taught her a ton. She came to us and she's just spectacular. So I think she's a really good example of the mentorship that you provide and just overall great promotion of other people without thinking about yourself.
That's fantastic. It's important to celebrate the success of others more than you celebrate your own. And that's also what's been able to get us great talent to come into JetLinks, because my favorite basketball team in the world is University of Kentucky Wildcats basketball, and they have a coach named John Calipari, and he is the one and done coach. Bring in great talent, and I'll get you to the NBA. So I started that mentality at TMC Jets up in northern Indiana, where we didn't have an aviation school close by, and Purdue was kind of close by, but those guys are going to like Airbus and Boeing and that. They're So you have to bring in amazing talent and then teach. And so the promise to them is, I want to keep you moving up. And back at TMC, it's, if that's what TMC, great. And if not, that's okay too. We know it. We know many people in this industry. We will help you move up. Just give me 1, give me 2, give me 3 years of just amazing attitude, amazing effort. And we will, I promise you, you will keep moving up. And that has helped out so much. And we have seen so many great success stories with that mentality, is just caring more about others than you do for yourself. And it's simple.
That's awesome. How about maybe I'll switch kind of the other way. Any challenges or stumbling blocks along the way, either in school or if you're not stuck somewhere along the way, I don't think you're really trying hard enough. So I think money was my first stuck, obviously, but you just figure out something else to do with that. The mentality that I had before Comair was about safety. We always watched the safety videos, and we always did the, hey, make sure you're putting the cones in the right spots when you're doing that. You're breezing through it just to get it done. And then in August of 2006, Comair had a very, very, very bad crash. It was Comair 5191, and I was living near Lexington. I was in a little town called Georgetown, just north of Lexington, and I got a call from our dispatch team, and they said, "Hey, man, there's a plane that went off the taxiway. Can you go check it out?" Nobody's answering the phone, so I go to the airport and then find out that some really bad things had happened. Yeah. So I worked that with Comair, and that was that wasn't a stumbling block at all. That was just a very extremely difficult time. Yeah. And but I was able to pull a lot of positive things out of that. My thought process on safety changed. Number one, immediately.
And
Sure.
that's where I started to get into hey, we're doing operations to protect the lives on board this aircraft. We're checking NOTAMs to make sure that things are going to be safe when we land or when we take off. We're checking the weather.
Yeah.
We're doing this for a reason. So all of a sudden that why started to emerge from what we were doing, and that was part of my leadership style was to explain the why. I know checking NOTAMs for 90 airports right now is a bummer, but this is why we're doing it. Continuing along the way, it also was learning in the 135 side, because there at TMC at the time, there weren't many good ways to learn other than sitting there watching somebody else do it.
Right.
So getting to learn on the 135, I think we all can benefit from better training to put that together. And that, again, trying to take a stumbling block and make that better down the road was a key part.
Yep.
But those were the two biggest things that I always fall back to and also look back and say, hey, this is why it changed up my thought process of what I do and how I lead and how we coach and mentor.
I think that's so interesting. Of course, if you're involved in an accident like that, safety's got to be foremost in your mind going forward.
Yep.
And I think a lot of us who have not experienced anything like that, we probably tend to forget, or we probably tend to think, oh, why are we doing all these extra things, and why do we have to run the flight risk or the frat, whatever it is that you're doing in your department, and you tend to find it or think that it's unnecessary. But you're right, that's the why. It's so that we don't have those accidents, and we make sure that everybody's safe, crew and passengers.
Absolutely,
that's a really good point.
Absolutely. And when we talk to crews at JetLinks, it's always an ask, never a tell. It's, hey, we get a new trip added. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Let's go through this together. And if you're not comfortable with it, we're not doing it. It's as simple as that. And that to me makes so much of a difference compared to back in like 2008 when we were doing things on the 135 side. Just a different mentality altogether.
Well, and that's the teamwork kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that you see it a little bit more in European operations, where they're usually doing all of their operations, international and domestic, right in-house. And here in the United States, it's less noticed or less common to do all of that in-house.
100%.
Usually reaching out to somebody else. I love that, though. I enjoy doing that type of work. So
good deal.
Anyway.
Good.
Well, Brian, it's been so great talking to you. And I really think you made some really good points. Just for those of you that are listening, get your dispatch license. Just like Brian said, it's not that bad. They want to help you. And safety. Make sure safety is foremost on your mind as well. But there's a reason why we're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. A quick plug. I was able to get a grant through the state of Nebraska. My whole team is getting their dispatch licenses for free through the University of Nebraska, Omaha. There are grants out there through each state in the United States that are more than happy to give money. So if any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help that process out. And if you can get your team their dispatch license for free, they will love you forever.
That is great. So if anybody did want to reach out to you, how do we contact you?
2 ways. You can do it through my email at JetLinks. It's brian.walker@jetlinks.com, and it's LINX. And then also my other email is Brian G. Walker, SBN, Sierra Bravo November @outlook.com.
All right. Perfect. Well, sounds good. I'm sure people will be reaching out, and I really appreciate your time today, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Lindsay, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you.
You too.
All right.
Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes and check out our website for up-and-coming podcasts. This has been a production of the Business Aviation Collective, sponsored by LD Aviation.